requires a commitment towards honesty. That's what is called really being spiritual. Otherwise, it's a very easy, quick, and cheap way to just assert anything. I am the best, my wife is the best, my kids are the best, my choices are the best, my marks are the best, my job is the best, my neighborhood is the best, my gods are the best. Everything that is related to me is the best because I am the best. Fine. Very easy to claim all that. What's the real meaning of the term integrity? It is to not to have a dissonance between truth and your truth. And there is nothing that's further away from the truth than one's own truth. Personal truth, that's the enemy of truth. One requires, we all know our track records, no? The kind of inner achievers we are. We might put things on our CV, I understand that. I come from a similar campus, so I know how we build up and decorate our CV, so that's one thing. But we know internally who we are. We know our track record. Then how do we manage to back ourselves so strongly, so unflinchingly? One should have some suspicion, if not cynicism, no? If I know who I am and what I have been, and I also know that I can't change overnight, I won't trust myself too easily. Or would I? In fact, I would say, if it's appearing to me, then it ought to be false. That's the mantra I sometimes give to some of my selected, most loved people. See, just do the opposite of what you feel like, and there is a 90% chance you'll get it right. When I have to take a decision, sometimes I call in people to consult them. And I want to hear their opinion, just so that I do the opposite of it. We all should have this kind of attitude towards ourselves. We love slippery slopes, no? So if that's the direction our being is feeling impelled to, then we must know that the heights, the tops, the mountains lie in the opposite direction. If I feel impelled towards that direction, then there is a 90% chance that that's the direction of the bottom. The right side would be there, probably exactly to the opposite. Aren't slippery slopes always inviting? You don't have to do anything. Just slip. You could even slip sleeping. Comfortably you are sleeping, and yet so much movement is happening. Like sometimes in 2 years in the campus, you don't even know when you have graduated. That internal sleep is a very typical thing. Keeps happening. Externally, we might feel our eyes are open. The way of inquiry. The more confident you feel about something, the more suspicion it should arouse. The more sure you feel of something, the more you must realize that Maya is trying to shut the doors to inquiry. Confidence is your enemy. Catch the inner thief red-handed. Look at its functioning. See how it manipulates and distorts. See how it has preset conclusions and then it fabricates arguments in favor of the conclusions. That's such a bad way of arguing and concluding, no? If you do that in any of the sciences or in economics, statistics, commerce, accounting, anywhere, even in humanities, if you have a ready-made conclusion and then you manufacture arguments to support that conclusion, you would be called a third-rate philosopher. No? A third-rate arguer. But that's what we all do internally. My kid is the best, my choices are all right. That's something already proven, well in advance. And then you have to come up with arguments to somehow justify your choice. And we do not even know why we have already concluded in a particular way. But that's something we need to know. Because the one sitting inside is not your friend. Please. The one who sits inside of us is not our friend. It's the false I. It's a usurper. It has taken over, stolen somebody else's name. The real I is something else, somebody else. The one who sits inside us has stolen the name. How can this thief be our friend? Where is it coming from? It's not homegrown. It's not arising from inside, coming from here and there. It's not our innate sense of self. It's a biological and social sense of self, mostly random, time-bound, conditioned, influences of culture, religion, media, and the rest of it. When it's coming from all these external places, how do we call it I? How do you feel if I say you, sir, you are sitting there, you are 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 all over the place? Does that make sense? So physically, we want to be a unit, right? An integrated unit. There has to be a certain oneness. No? This is me, and if this is me, that is, please tell me, that is not me. And if this is me, then that's not me, that's not me. But look at how it operates internally, psychologically. Here, when it comes to your arm is at one place and it's not coming from 5 other places. But look at what you have here. It's coming from 5,000 different places, and the flux is continuous. The tragedy is unmitigated. Continuous movement of influences, and these are coming from everywhere. Here. And yet we manage to call the content here as my own. How is it my own? How do I say, I am thinking? You're hurting my feelings. Are your feelings your own? Really? Are any of your concepts your own? A little hit on the head, and if you lose your memory, would these concepts still stay with you? How are they your own? They are things stored in your memory. Stored in memory and picked up by the ego to associate with. How is this, anything here, how is it your own? My caste, my geography, my nationality, my aims, targets, hopes, dreams, are they our own? If we ask a set of people like we have here to write down their dreams, please enumerate 5 top dreams you have. I guess there would be a 50 to 80% commonality. And I might be underestimating. How is it possible, if we are individuals, how is it possible that we all have so very common dreams? How is it possible? Does that not trigger suspicion? Huh? Prima facie, does that not point towards a need for inquiry? Something very dangerous is happening inside. And what's the danger? I am not at all there inside. I am calling it my insides. The fact is, inside of me, there is very little of me. How big a danger is that? That's a danger that the learned ones have called a danger bigger than death. Bigger than death, to the extent that they say that you are not even alive. They say you need to take birth. This that emerges from the mother's womb is just a thing of flesh. You cannot call that thing as living or alive or conscious. Life is for the sake of actually attaining birth. And you attain birth when you are able, via the process of self-inquiry, to cleanse yourself of all that is not you. When that, only that remains, that's just me, pure me. That's when you can claim that you are now alive. And that's the point referred to as Jivan Mukti. So how big a danger is it to lead a conditioned life? A danger bigger than death. Death is something we see as coming in the future. Whereas this is a danger about not even being born. Not even being born. No, not even being born is said to be a danger bigger than death. Most of us, well, that's the way of those who know. They don't mince words. They say most of us die physically without ever having taken birth. So here's the dead body. The tragedy is the fellow was never even born. He died without taking birth. He was eating, breathing, all that was happening, walking, talking, mating, reproducing, making a CV, getting a job, that's fine. The little problem is that he was never alive. All that was so conditioned, so mechanical, and we don't call machines as sentient beings, do we? So even a machine can do most of the stuff that we do. And with AI it has become even clearer. So, everything that we do, including emoting, can be done by a machine. So how do we say that we are even born? We don't call machines as born, we call them manufactured. So we are manufactured beings, right? DOM, date of manufacturing, not DOB. Don't be sure of yourself. They say only 1/9 of the iceberg is exposed above the surface. When it comes to to the human mind, it is probably 1 by 90. That's the extent of our self-awareness. You will have to watch yourself continuously, dispassionately, ruthlessly. Your words, your thoughts, your feelings, your associations, desires, hopes, heartbreaks, you'll have to observe them. Like in a case study? Yes? Huh? Yeah. The most intimate case study. Our own life, our own movements. And when I say life, I don't mean historical life. I don't mean what you were doing between the age of 8 and 18. By life, I mean that which is happening. The dynamic process itself, here, now. One will have to very dispassionately, very objectively, look at oneself like one looks at a case study and see what is really happening. We say facts are the door to truth. One will have to have a fact-oriented attitude towards oneself. I say I am this, but is that borne out by how I behave, how I relate, how I desire? Desires are wonderful things to observe. They are more honest than actions. Because actions are very fearful things. You might desire something but never act on it because of fear of consequences. But look at your desires. They'll tell you a lot about what you have become. When you look at all that, then there is a cleansing thing that happens inside. That's called revelation of the real self. It comes via the false self. Look at the false self. Look at it without attachment, without association, as if you are looking at somebody else. When the falseness loses your own support, it falls. What's left behind is who you really are. Yeah. Quick follow-ups on this one, so that I may be sure I have communicated. Okay. Mic fast. You're already late. Where is the mic, Keshav?
Namaste, sir. So my follow-up question is that you've always said that you must find what you must do, and you've talked a lot about finding that must-do thing. And it's clear from this conversation also that you need a lot of self-knowledge to even find that thing. Else you're just finding it from some conditioning, and that conditioned thought is telling you that it's the must-do thing. But how do you know that?
Lovely.
Because the conditioning is saying.
Yes.
But
all certainties, they arise only from conditioning. Would you remember this, please? Remember it not to simply blindly execute it, but to be with it. Be with it in the sense of accompanying it, questioning it, experimenting with it. All certainty arises only from conditioning. And that certainty is never the certainty about rightness of the action. It is always an assumed, imagined certainty about the fruits of the action. Conditioning and desire are very intimately related, right? So I want something, and never do anything except for except for the role it has in serving my desire. Desire comes first, action comes later. Is that not so? You want something, hence you act. You want something, hence you act. Now in this, what is certain? What is certain for you? Fixed, determined. The desire, I want it. I want it, and I won't budge. So, all certainty is conditioned. Truth never gives you any kind of certainty. The redeeming thing is, with truth, you do not require any assurance of certainty. Only when you are clamoring for a particular thing do you want to be sure that you will attain that thing. I want that thing. Please, please come and assure me that I'll definitely get that thing. Now that's why we say that hopes make the world go round. Yes, 5 years later I'll get that thing. Why do I enter the campus? I'm assured in whatever way I could be that 2 years later such and such package is guaranteed. Right? So the admissions office means a lot and the placement office means a lot. Everything in between is, let me just go through the motion. Happens in every campus. Desire is what affords us certainty. And all desire, as we experience it, is a product of conditioning. Conditioning. So conditioning and certainty, they always go together. Hence, how do we come to that which is real? Question everything that you take as certain. Our friend here asked us, how do I know what I must do in life? The thing is, you already know so much that you must do in life. And how do you know that? Through very, very flimsy processes and routes. Somebody told you. You gathered it from somewhere. That's the cultural norm of the era. So we already know all these things. You must do this, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. You must get educated. And education, if you are from the global south, it generally does not mean getting educated in philosophy or psychology or sociology. Education to us means vocational education. Education that opens the doors of a particular profession to us. STEM, right? So highly educated would usually mean manager, doctor, engineer, lawyer, and what's common between the four? Vocational degrees. You could add accountancy, CA, and the rest. But what's common between all these? Vocational degrees, right? So that's education. But you already know that you must do all these things. That's the trick. Don't find out what you must do. See what you already know as must-dos in life. And ask, where did I get them from? Where did I get them from? And you could afford a certain awkwardness in this. You could ask certain very basic questions without hiding behind words like common sense and obviousness. People will say, but it is obvious. It's commonsensical. Don't hide behind those words. Ask, why must I get educated at all? Forget about vocational education. Why must I have any education? Why must I have any education? And let the answer be original. Because if the answer is original, you will not find it so troublesome to attend classes and maintain attendance. If the answer is really original, why I must get educated? You must earn so much. So where did that figure come from? Please tell me. 22 years back, when I appeared for my placements, 5 to 10 lakhs per annum, that kind of CTC, was taken to be honorable. Good. You exceed 10, then you say, lottery lag gayi iski. Huh? And if you are stuck at 3 or 4, people will say, don't worry. Within 3 months, you jump to some other place. For now, just take the offer. So 5 to 10 was a decent package. The median would lie somewhere between 6 and 8. Today, how much? 33, 35, 40, 25. Sir, how do you know? These are random numbers. Where did this number come from? Is it just an inflation-adjusted thing for 6 lakhs LPA? Is it coming from there? Where is it coming from? How do you know? How did this random thing become so sacred? How? Is it coming from the cost of living? See, we calculate the poverty line, and that's not a random number. Right? How do we calculate the poverty line? We look at the basic metabolic requirements of a man and a woman. In urban areas, we say he does not engage in physical labor, so he needs to expend only these many calories. In rural areas, we assume he works on the farms and travels by feet, so a little more calorie expenditure is happening, so we come to that number. Then we say if this much calorie intake has to happen, then the fellow must consume this quantity of grains and this much fruit and this much veggies, and then we say this is the going rate of these edibles, and from there we come to the definition of poverty line approximately. So there is a logic, there is a rationale. If we say you are not earning this much, then you deserve to be called poor, then there is a logic to it. Now tell me, what is the logic behind 33 LPA? There is no logic, and we don't ask. There is no calculation that can ever lead to the 33 figure. Where is it coming from? But you must do it. And if you don't do it, shame, ostracization. Somebody might just throw you out of a WhatsApp group. Bloody loser, just 25 LPA. Why must I get that package? It's a must do, right? It's a must do. Why? Why must I? I'm not saying you should not. Shoulds and must have no place in inquiry. It's a question. It's a very innocent question to ask, no? Why must I go after that package? And I'm not saying you must have only, instead of 33, only 25. Why should I not target 63? If 33 randomly can become so important, then I could as well randomly say 63. And train myself to feel disappointed on not getting 63. Because it's your own internal training, sir. It's not coming from anywhere else. Are you getting it? Now you must have that big a car. I understand. It's a four-wheeler, it has a certain utility. I too own one. It's required. But the question is there a relationship between my real needs and the vehicle I am desiring? Or is it coming from a must-do kind of dictum? Where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? You're asking, how do I figure out what I must do? In the clutter of all the false must-dos, where is the space for the thing that must really be done? Please tell me. So the first thing is to question and cut the clutter. If all your little life, and even in that little life, there is approximately only 2/3 period when you are neither infantile nor senile. And then, of that period, you spend approximately 1/3 sleeping. So how much time do we really have available for meaningful action? Very little. And even that very little time is spent in pursuing false must-dos. So should I ask, what is the real must-do, or should I first of all disown all the false ones? Please tell me. But we are not prepared to disown. We say all the false things I will gladly keep with me. Now on top of this falseness, can you put some cherry on the cake, please? Will that help? Will that help? And if you are a woman, if you are a lady, oh, you must have kids. And that is the age when you are building your career, right? And you will have to make a choice. But you already know what you must do, so the other thing will definitely take a backseat. You don't get pregnant after 60. It's not something that Mother Nature wants you to do after your retirement. It coincides with your peak time in career building. And when all your batchmates would be surging ahead, you would be doing what you must do. And one of those batchmates might as well be the father of the kid that you must carry. And when in campus, you are an active competitor, right? You didn't like it when that batchmate would get half a grade higher than you. But now you are doing what you must do, and he is doing what he must do. So where is the question of the real must do? Where is the question of that? Please see, we are so enveloped in a thick cloud of falseness that it is absurd for us to question about the truth. We need to first of all cut through this envelope. Otherwise it is just so awkward. Makes no sense. It's like sitting in a burning house and asking, how do the Himalayan glaciers feel? Ma'am, you first of all quickly need to come out, run away. Instead we say, no, please tell me. Please tell me. And then you have people who tell you to meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and they say, experience, internally experience. The freshness, the coolness of the Himalayas. Even as you are sitting in a burning house. What kind of self-deception is this? And where will it take you? Once all that which does not need to be done, once all that which does not deserve to be committed to is gone, you are left with no need for certainties. Then you can plunge into purposeless action and play joyfully. Because now you are not clamoring for a particular result. It's fine. All the falseness is gone. And what am I left with? Just a playground to enjoy myself. I don't care what happens in the future. I'm all right now. The funny thing is, those who stop caring about the future are presented with surprise gifts in the future. You must please understand that the future you envisage is a product of your conditioning. Why can't we see this simple thing? If you close your eyes and dream of the best future you can have 5 years down the line, please see where that dream, that vision, that image is coming from. Please see. It's coming from the movies. It's coming from folk culture. It's coming from parents. It's coming from tradition. It's not yours. Your dreams are not yours. Your targets are not yours. What's the point in chasing them? What's the point in investing your life on them? And then we start feeling suffocated. We say, okay, fine. Suppose I drop all this. Suppose I drop all this. Please give me something worthier to chase. Please. Now, with self-awareness, I would know what the intent of the question is. Why am I asking this question? So that I may get some answer. Okay? You drop all these must-dos, MDs. You drop these 5 MDs. You give me something in return, please. All right. Here is something in return. This is what you must chase. Show me. I don't like this. And if I don't like this, what will I continue chasing? My pre-existing 5 MDs. And that's the reason why we ask for an alternate vision of the future. You do not need any vision of the future is dangerous. You need freedom from the foolishness of the present. You don't need visions of the future. The future will take care of itself. That's called faith. But we don't want to give up on the foolishness here right now. Instead, we ask for either borrowed visions of the future or, all right, you are acting so smart, so wise, huh? You tell me, you tell me. What should I do 5 years down the line? Even I don't know what I'll be doing. I don't know and I don't want to know. Why should I play this joke on you? Are you hitting it? There is nothing specific that you must do in life. If there is something that happens to be your absolute responsibility, it is to live without bondages. That's what you must do. If it can be called doing at all. I do not prefer to call it a doing because it happens on its own when you realize what you are encumbered with. When you realize what is it that chains you, then the realization itself splits the chains open. That's the only must do in life. That's your only goal, to be yourself, swabhav. And your swabhav is freedom absolute. That's the only thing that you must not compromise on. And if you compromise on it, then as we said, we are not even born. You're missing out on the only thing that you have. This single one priceless life. What is it that I must do? No. Please no. Please no. Please see. You don't need a new direction to go towards. You need to ask these paths, these contours, these maps that I have supposedly chosen for myself. Where are they coming from? Why must I commit to them? How is it my obligation or responsibility to walk these paths? I hope I'm not being too abstract. Huh? Yes.
So can I just follow up? Okay. Hello, sir. So I hear what you're saying. The one thing that catches me off guard always is that when I'm looking at why I'm trying to do something or why I'm deciding that, hey, I should do this, it's endless. It's layers and layers and layers. I find something and then I say, okay, what's the next thing? Why is that coming? Why is that coming? And at some point, I don't want to be paralyzed. There is an obligation to act. Even if I don't act, that is an act of, right? So what do you suggest is the point at which we act, do something decisively?
Wonderful, wonderful. You see, there is an assumption inherent here. The assumption is action and observation are distinct things. They are not. You don't pause to observe. That's the traditional model. That's not what I'm talking of. What you're saying is, if I just keep observing, when do I act? Or what is the point at which observation gains so much certainty that I can now commit myself to some action? That's the question. Am I right? Yes, that's the question. No, you never have to stop because you cannot stop. You cannot stop. You are acting. We all are acting in our particular conditioned ways. It is this movement that needs to be observed. Hence, movement and observation are concurrent. They are not episodic. They don't follow each other. Are you getting it? If you pause to observe, what will you observe? What will you observe? How will you observe the flow of the Ganga in a picture? Can you? Can you? So there's the flow, and the flow itself is being observed. The flow itself is being observed. Which means you cannot have the luxury of observation-less movement. And that's the luxury traditional spirituality provides you. So there is a particular time slot for observation, morning 6:30 to 7, in my meditation room. And then the entire day you don't need to be observant. I'm talking of observation 24/7. I'm saying, even as I stand here and we sit here, we should know what's going on. As I speak, how many of us found somebody within us coming up with replies or resistance? Yeah. So that's what needs to be observed. Now the one who came up with those rebuts or resistances, does that person really understand what is being said? Honestly, it doesn't. But the reaction is instantaneous. Even without understanding, it is prepared to counter. No. Now that's what needs to be observed. That's what observation is all about. You're sitting in the window side of the bus, right? And you're continuously seeing things. The bus is moving. Do you see how something within keeps reacting? Even though you might not speak, you might not move. But there is a continuous something happening. That's what needs to be observed. You watch a long car. You watch a fat man. You watch a sexy woman. You see somebody wearing a skull cap. You happen to watch a dead body, an ambulance, a police van. We see these things. Do you see how there is some reacting to them? So observation and movement are simultaneous. Don't do this. That if I have a great decision, then I'll stop doing everything else, enclose myself in my room for 2 days, and then come up with a great decision. That's stupid. It is in the flow of things that the facts will emerge. If you stop the flow, what will you see? Where will the facts come from? Yeah? Yes.
Good evening, sir. My name is Tushar. I've been with Geeta Samagam from the last 2 years. Very thankful for you. So you said continuously observe yourself. When I observe myself, I find greed, anger, all this kind of stuff, and then I hate myself that I'm like that. Then and how to then tackle these all things? I know these are the animalistic.
You don't have to tackle. If you decide to tackle, observation itself becomes purposeful. And purpose is desire. And all desire comes from the center of conditioning. So now you are not observing. Now you are playing to your conditioning. How do you know something deserves to be tackled? Explain tackling. Give me an absolute definition of tackling. By absolute, I mean something that's not subjective. Because everything that is subjective arises from the ego. Give me an absolute definition of tackling. See, these are very, if I may say, loose words. That we casually get away with. We should not allow the inner mischief maker to so easily get away with loose gibberish. What do you mean by tackle? Huh? I need to put down something. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? These are metaphors. They are so cunning, aren't they? They hide so much. You don't need to tackle anything. You don't need to have preset conclusions about what is right and what is wrong. If, let's say you observe greed, how do you know greed is bad? Badness is a concept. What is bad? Badness is a concept. Badness is a man-made concept. Please, please. What is bad in one culture is great in another, is it not? So how do you know badness is something absolute? And we are looking for the absolute, because only that would give us peace. Things that are temporal, spatial, cultural, let's not respect them too much. We are looking for something that is beyond the mind of man. We are looking for something that we have ourselves not constructed. Because we know who we are, and therefore we know the quality of our construction. We don't want to depend too much on it. Are you getting it? Observation has to be purposeless. Don't ask what will happen if I see greed or envy or whatever inside me, anger or lust inside me. If you have seen them, fine, they are there. You don't need to be judgmental. You don't need to be your own inner police. Seen? So seen. What's the big scandal? There is that fat python sitting inside. The lazy one. Doesn't want to do anything. Just wants to eat. Doesn't that one sit inside all of us? If you were assured you could get all the results that you want without working, would you ever work? That's the python I'm talking of. So you see, it's there. The entire fat coil. So it's there, fine. I don't have the obligation to deal with it.
Tackle with it.
No, you don't have that responsibility. Swabhav is not tackling. Swabhav is knowing. You have to know. And from that knowing, what follows, follows. I don't bother. My job, my responsibility, my swabhav, my dharma is to just know. The Upanishads say, I am. They don't even say, I must know. They say, I am knowing. Bodho aham. I am knowing. I don't realize. I am realization itself. That's Swabhav. I'm not my opinions, thoughts, feelings, my body, my word, my age, my anything. I'm pure realization, nothing less, nothing more. Yeah. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. There is no action contained in this. It's not my job to act. It's not my job to impede action either. If action has to happen, it will happen. I'll submit myself to the action. And from this realization, vigorous action results. Vigorous. The ego, when it acts only for its petty purposes, and for petty purposes only petty action can happen. How big are your desires? Look at the size of the universe. What do you desire? A grain of sand? Petty desires. So when the action emanates from the center of ego, it is always petty. But when action comes from nothing but realization, then it's unstoppable. The body can fall, the person can die, but that action cannot be stopped.
I think it came from the conditioning where we train from our childhood.
To tackle.
Yes, if you
Tackle.
win that
No,
thing,
you don't
then
need to
you
tackle.
were super. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Namaskar Acharya ji. I am from Pune, Maharashtra, Prajwal Jadhav. Sir, it is often said that lack of
Continue, please.
yes, it is often said that lack of self-knowledge leads to suffering. Yet we see that some people are happy and some of them are deeply troubled. Seeing those seemingly happy people, seeing these seemingly happy individuals, people content with worldly choice, but and they distance themselves from Bhagavad Gita. Why does this happen?
How do you know somebody is happy? How? We have fooled ourselves no end. We don't know happiness. We only know symptoms of happiness. And symptoms are easy to copy. Nobody is happy. All they exhibit is symptoms of happiness. And we have, in some kind of a very shady deal among ourselves, decided mutually with universal consent that these will be the accepted symptoms of happiness. Let's list down 5 of them. 1, smiling. And the hyperlative form of that is a guffaw. So happy, extremely happy. 2nd, money. Clothes. Shining face. Partner, fine. Yeah, and respect, prestige. Yeah. Gratitude. That's not a very common thing among happy people. Yeah? Right. You see a young man, a young woman, arms in arms, or hands over shoulders, her shoulders especially. What do you say immediately? Happy. We can conduct an experiment right now. Let's display a few pictures over here and let's ask you, which of these indicate happiness? The answer would be almost unanimous. Now, how do you know they are happy? Those are pictures. Do you see that's our happiness? Pictures. Will it happen or not? Do we have somebody from psychology here? Or any of the behavioral sciences? Okay. Yeah. Try this out. 5 picks. Tell me which of these indicate happiness. And you'll have near consensus in the responses. What does that tell? Happiness is an image. 5 images, and you know which of these point towards happiness. You already know. Similarly, 5 faces of men and women. Which of these are evil people? Nobody would say, I cannot say, sir. It's a stupid question to ask, sir. What are you asking? How do I know which of them is evil? You will find somebody within who will say, that one, number 3. He looks like Acharya Prashant, evil. How do I change that? So many people come up with that. No, I haven't heard him, I haven't read him, but shakal se hi gunda lagta hai. How do I change my face? But we already know. See, this is just a particular piece of 3-dimensional geometry, right? It does not say good, bad, vile, virtuous. It says nothing. Then there is some kind of personal decoder here that translates this geometry into a particular judgment. We do not realize that the judgment is not coming from the face, it is coming from our own compiler. The decoder within. We don't realize that. Anyway, that's little. So, happiness. What is happiness? Behaving in a particular way? Feeling a particular way? What is happiness? feeling a particular way. Now, feeling is totally chemical, don't we know that? And if happiness happens to be such a big thing, then you can have that chemical put into your body very artificially and you will be happy. We now very well know the names of at least 5 such chemicals that can arouse you in happy and differently happy ways. A shot of dopamine, it will work in one particular way and you will be... Estrogen, another way. Oxytocin, another way. And even these happinesses will not be all alike. Different kinds of happinesses. And all temporary in nature. So how do we accord so much value to this feeling, particular feeling? And feelings can amount to pleasure, not happiness. Happiness that is neither temporal nor chemical has been classically called as joy. And it is not something to be obtained. It is not something to be obtained. It is nature. It is who you are. Provided you refuse to abide by what you are not. Happiness is not something you have to hunt for. Otherwise, happiness remains eternally elusive. I heard this, read this book, The Pursuit of Happiness. It's a futile pursuit of happiness, unending pursuit of happiness. Getting it? Sensation. And that sensation of arousal, hormonal, chemical arousal that we call as happiness, that is needed only because our life is otherwise depressing. You do not need to be happy. You are already joyful if you do not subject yourself to your own nonsense. Happiness is not a particular state, a particular moment, a particular event or episode. Happiness is a constant thing. It is your very breath, just as the heart beats. Similarly, the nature of consciousness is to always be joyful. You are joyful already, but we burden ourselves with all kinds of needless things. And that becomes the sadness, the grief of life. Life becomes a trauma. And when life becomes that kind of a thing, then you require sensational pleasures that we mistakenly call as happiness. Again, turning it a little personal, that's another grouse people have against me. Why doesn't this man laugh? Because I don't need to. See, I'm already all right. I'm not depressed. Why do I need to laugh? You're so depressed, you need to laugh. You'll die if you don't laugh, but I'm already all right. I'm vibrant within. I'm not tense, I'm not worried. I'm okay. I'm immersed. I'm with you. I'm enjoying being with you. This association itself is so enjoyable. Why do I need to burst out into a guffaw? And if need be, when that happens on its own. I don't have to turn that into a routine or an obligation. Your question, right? Happiness is the most needless thing to be pursued because it is always and already there. Why are you searching for something that is your very nature? And if the mind is heavy, if life is no more fun, then you need to ask, what have I done? By design, is taught you. You have all that you need to live joyfully. If life becomes cumbersome, then surely it is from my own decisions. It is my own doing. I don't need to laugh. I need to fight. I need to undo what I have done. I need to see clearly where I am conditioned and enslaved. And when I see that, then I push away my grief. My grief is not something that has accidentally come upon me. My grief is something I am deliberately sticking to. My grief is something I am clutching this way, this strongly with my own fists. I have to release my grip. I have to release my grip. And that will release me of grief. Freedom from grief itself is joy. If I remain grieving and with the grief, along with the grief, chase happiness, how smart is that? Internally I am weeping and bleeding. And externally I go to sit in a comic show. How will that help? But we do that too. No. I'm extremely tense. Oh, I'm feeling so down. I need to shop. I need to speak to you for at least 30 minutes. Why? I'm not all right. Make me laugh. Or turn me on, whatever. How will that help you? That which is inside will remain. You are just whitewashing it. You're sugarcoating it. You are denying what is there. That's what this flimsy happiness is all about. The grief is there and you want to deny it using the concept of happiness. Why not get rid of grief itself? Instead of trying out happiness as a shady solution, why not ask what is causing the problem itself? What will help? Freedom from the problem or a shady solution? Freedom from the problem. That freedom is what we need, not happiness. Yes, let's move quickly. It'll come to you. I just wish I hadn't lost those 30 minutes. Yes.
Pranam Acharya. I'm Abhilash. I have a question related to discrimination. For so many generations, we have seen inequalities and discrimination for so long. There is income inequality, caste-based discrimination, gender-based discrimination, sexual orientation discrimination. And we have gone through this for many generations. But now what I see is there are different flavors of such discrimination. Like now we are speaking about how global north and south are widening and climate injustice. And I see that these discriminations have become more deep and also systemized. So despite having so much of violence around these discriminations, how come change is not coming up, and how come there is no effective and meaningful change happening?
But from where will the change come? From where will the change come? Change requires a change agent, right? We said discrimination. So there is a party here that supposedly dominates and exploits. That's the essence of discrimination. And there is a party at the receiving end, dominated and exploited. Typically, we assume that the change will come from the dominated party because they are the ones facing the injustice. So we assume that they will rise and rebel, and then there would be an end to the discrimination and we'll have a fairer order. we should appreciate it. The beauty of all kinds of discriminatory systems is that they enable the exploited party to have a stake in the discrimination. So now who is going to rally for the change? For change to happen, someone has to be a change agent. If the change agent feels that I am not being exploited, instead, I too am a beneficiary, I too am a stakeholder in this discriminatory process. We agree there is discrimination, yes. But I'm benefiting. I'm benefiting. Now. And that's what kind of foolproofs and immortalizes the discriminatory systems. Are you getting it? Take salary, for example. It's a very good example. So, I am paid an amount X, right? My employer, the stakeholders, the shareholders in the company, they make 10x out of my labor, my intellectual labor. They pay me X. They make 11x, they pay me X, they save 10x. But this X enables me to run my household and fulfill my dreams. This X enables me to run my household, send my kids to school, buy a new car, pay my EMIs, please my parents, have some social status. Correct? I know they are exploiting me. They make 10x for every X they give me. Will I rise and rebel? Will I rise and rebel? I won't. In fact, one kind of expression of my rebellion would be that I want to become a stakeholder. I don't want to end the exploitation. I want to become one of the exploiters. That's the distorted kind of rebellion that we express. Startups. Why be a salaried employee? Be the exploiter, the shark himself. And icing on the cake, be called a job generator, an employment provider. Do you see this? The stereotypical housewife. Everywhere, ubiquitous in Indian households. She knows what's happening to her. But she has been brought to a point she can do nothing without the husband. In all ways, she leans on the husband. She crips. She beats her feet. She gets angry also. She throws tantrums. In whatever little ways she can express her dissatisfaction, she does that. But does she ever walk out? She can't, because she has a stake in the system now. That's the beauty of very, very finely made exploitative systems. They will not allow the exploiter to rebel, not by force, but by incentivizing with some little bit of grease. Terle bhi to kuch hai. Take the caste system, for example, the big monster when it comes to discrimination. Every single caste has another caste below it. So you are not just being exploited, you also have somebody to exploit. Don't crib so much, please. If somebody above you has kicked you in your stomach, you can go to somebody else and try out the same thing. Same thing. But sir, there must be a lowermost caste. Oh, they have their wives. When you have nobody to kick, then there is always the wife. But sir, wives, there are the kids. Everybody has some stake in the system. So there can be rebellion only when somebody decides, I do not want what the system is giving me. I disown, I quit. I refuse to partake. I'm not taking what you're giving me. Because the system does not exploit you for nothing, not for free. It bribes you into submission. You are being bribed to get exploited. You see, you remain in the house. I will provide you food on the table and some money for household expenses and also for your shopping. Fine. You can have discretionary expenses as well. 2 lakhs I earn, 10% is yours, 20,000. And I won't question you. This is your discretionary amount. Do whatever you want to do. I'm happy. Fine. And if I today go out as a woman and look for a job, it's possible that I might not begin with a 20K monthly package. It is possible. Possible. So I'm happy with the amount that I get. The exploiter incentivizes the exploited to get exploited. You remain exploited. I will give you something. Similarly, the global north and the global south. Have you not heard of zero interest loans and debt waivers? And what are these Bretton Woods institutions for? What are they for? Think of climate change. We know where the emissions have historically come from. Even today we know where they are coming from. And when you look at per capita emissions, then the picture becomes even more clear where they are coming from. Will the global south rise and rebel? No. Exploiter enfeebles the exploited to such an extent that the exploited remains content with a few crumbs thrown at him. Instead of cleaning up our own industries, we'll provide you loans so that you can set up carbon neutral industries. Wow. Such charity. Are you getting it? You will never be. People say to change the system, you have to participate in the system. Sir, to participate in the system means to accept the deal. And if you have already accepted the deal, how will you rebel? You can never be in the system and change the system, believe me. Else I too would have been in some corporate and happily doing the regular stuff. You cannot be an insider and change things from within. Not possible. How will a bureaucrat challenge a minister? Please tell me. It is neither theoretically nor practically possible. Yet some kind of challenge can be posed. And that can make the bureaucrat feel very morally upright. You know, some little MLA, and he wanted to do such a thing in my district, and I, as the DM, didn't allow him to do this. See, that's the power of bureaucracy. Sir, that's a very little thing that you can do. And you are a very junior officer, the DM. You cannot bring about real change from within bureaucracy, because bureaucracy is meant to toe the line. That's the very definition. You cannot violate your definition. minister. When you become a seasoned senior bureaucrat, what do you become? A secretary. And look at the damn daring and gumption. You're saying, I challenge the system as a secretary. And a secretary is somebody very senior. You don't do what the minister wants you to do. Transferred in a minute. What will you change? Parked away in some obscure department. You see why discrimination continues? Because, see, we all are discriminated against. But we also have stakes in the system, little stakes. Our petty selfishnesses, they prevent any meaningful change. Great changes can happen because numerically the exploiters are always less than 1% of the population, always. Carbon emissions, just figure out how much do the top 1% exploiters contribute. The biggest culprits are just 1% in number. Rebellions should have been very easy, but they never happen because these 1% know the trick. Keep the 99% engaged, happy, with little doles, little giveaways. What do the governments do? What do you think these 80 crore or 100 crore people in India are being subsidized for? All kinds of free things. What kind of nation have we become that almost 100 crore people, 2/3 of our population, has to be given free food? But now that's the reason why those people won't rebel, because they are being given free food. This free food will not allow any change to happen. Instead, let me say, at the risk of being misunderstood, had we been starving, there would have been a rebellion. If you really are interested in seeing things change, if you don't like the face of the world as it is, don't participate in pre-existing systems. Or participate as little as possible. Or participate with a fixed intention. I am participating to this extent, for this reason, for this duration. And if you have the intention to join the exploiters, join the ranks of exploiters, become one of them. Why one of them? Become the top exploiter. Then fine. Then you must enter the system. And that's what we enter the system for, right? Somebody asks you, where do you see yourself 15 or 20 years in the future? I'll be the CEO of such and such place. Or I'll be running my own thing. And squeezing blood out of millions. Who is responsible for the mess this planet is currently in? Not the entire humanity, sir. Businesses are inanimate things. We are talking of persons here. When you say businesses, what you mean is persons. Just the top 1%, not even top 1%, 0.1% of humanity is what has brought this planet to the brink of extinction. Just 0.1%. The great thing is, the remaining 99.9% have these 0.1% as role models. I venerate Elon Musk and his 14 kids. Is any change going to happen? When your exploiter becomes your role model, will you ever rebel? Makes us feel very stupid internally, right? Our role model is our exploiter. Show me one role model in pop culture who is not an exploiter. That's the depth of our collective stupidity. Show me one celebrity selling things to you on the TV screen who is not exploiting you. Am I selling things to you on the TV screen? The only thing that I bring to you is the Gita Samagam. And even for that I face so much plague. He's collecting donations. Think of it. Show me one celebrity. Show me one celebrity who is not an exploiter. Look at a school kid. Show me one person he venerates who is not toxic. Think of the person, the face, who can command a rally of 1 lakh people or 5 lakh people or 10 lakh people. And tell me whether that face is benevolent. Masses are self-destructive. They idolize those who traumatize them. If you want to know who is an enemy of the planet and humanity today, just conduct a survey and ask people, whom do you idolize? The biggest idol will be the biggest culprit. Now tell me, from where is a rebellion going to spring up? And when somebody tries to liberate you from your role models, your idols, it is not your idol that you attack. It is the liberator that you attack. I'm getting support from the animal kingdom. If I come and tell you, you have been fooled all these years, all these centuries, you get very angry. Not at the people who fooled you, but at the one who is telling you that you have been fooled. From where is a rebellion going to come? And I'm not yet saying revolution. I'm saying rebellion. I'm talking of the individual. A social revolution is none of my business. I'm talking of something within the individual. And from that, if something social follows, so be it. Yes. Next time, huh? Otherwise I just go straight.
Namaste Acharya ji. My question is about anxieties regarding the future, wherein the threats that were supposed to be in the future have come in the present almost. AI, which challenges our purpose as humans because it can do everything better than us. And climate change which threatens our very survival. And with the decline in the traditional institutions that could provide us solace, how does an individual cope with these anxieties? And further, what can we as a community, as societies do? Do you see any role of public policy of the government in this? Thank you.
The government is a concept. Government is a term, it's a concept. You are the government. I'm talking to somebody in flesh and blood. You are the government, right? Ours is a democratic system. You form the government. You don't choose. You don't just choose. You form the government. You are the government. You are the policy. I won't even say you choose the policy makers. You are the policy. Everything will be as you are. If we remain enslaved for long centuries, that had something to do with the way we had unfortunately become. It all begins within. So there is nothing that public policy can do in it. There is nothing that governments are going to do. Paris Agreement. What happened of that? What happened of that? We were talking of a 45% reduction in emissions by 2030. Instead of minus 45%, we are up 2.5%. We are talking of net zero by 2050. As things are, we will be plus 25 by 2050. Even plus 2.5 will be fatal. And all the leaders got together, and there were the national deliverables that were decided upon. What happened of that? Nothing. Because the leaders will come back and they'll see if we implement these things. This fellow is not going to vote for me. You, sir, you. It all comes at a cost. If you set up industries that are carbon neutral or carbon negative, that requires the taxpayers' money to be spent in a different way. Is the taxpayer game for that? Will we allow that to happen? The government, the leaders, the vote seekers, they follow the electorate. They mislead the electorate, we know. They condition the electorate, we know. They corrupt the electorate, we know. But ultimately they follow the decision of the electorate, the mood of the electorate. If you all collectively declare that you absolutely hold the color black sacred, and a vote seeker comes here, you will find him in black. He follows what you like. He does what you want him to do. Obviously, he does manipulate you. But even after all the manipulation, he stands behind you. You lead him. You lead your leaders. So all real change can happen only at the level of the individual. And once it happens there, it takes no time for governments to toe the line. But if the electorate remains as it is, if that's the individual remains as she is, and you go and you petition the government, what will come of it? The Paris Agreement will go down in history as a burning testament to the futility of governmental action. And you can keep having summits after summits. Unless the population itself is sensitized, after all the Paris agreements, you will have people like Trump who will just junk the agreement. It's the second time in a row he's opted out of Paris. And who voted him to power? The army? It was a coup? What happened there? It was a democratic process and he got duly elected. And he is saying we'll make America great again and there is gold under our feet. We'll dig out all the hydrocarbons, the gas, the oil. We'll not only burn these things, we'll actively export them. If we can make dollars out of our natural resources, why shouldn't we? We'll make America great again. America first. And if he says America first, Russia will say Russia first, China first, all concepts of nationalism will then be aroused. The Paris Agreement said, let's look at the entire planet, not as nationalities, but as human beings. But are you prepared to look at the entire planet, not from your little perspective, I belong to UP, I belong to Tamil Nadu, or I'm Indian, or I'm an American? UP first, Tamil Nadu first, India first, America first. As long as we are not prepared to have a macro perspective, how will governmental action happen? People elected Trump, don't forget it. And they rejoice at his policies. He's cutting down, he has already cut down the subsidies that were being given to the EVs, the EV industry, so that petrol and diesel and gas regain their supremacy as fuels. And we'll initiate mining and exploration in Alaska. You understand how fragile that ecosystem is, Alaska? And they're saying we'll blast through the ice and dig out the minerals. To hell with the glaciers. And he's an old man. It's just that a lot of young men, a fat lot of young men, support him. 34 crore Americans. At least 17 crore of them support him. Now, what can any government do? When so many people want something, it will happen. If you want to accelerate climate devastation, it will be accelerated. Who can stop it? A leader is just a poor person, typically an old man. How will he resist the combined might of the electorate, the colossal power of mass ignorance? How can any leader resist that, even if he wants to? They don't want to, but even if he wants to. Yes.
Pranam Acharya ji. Okay. क्या मैं हिंदी में सवाल कर सकती हूँ?
हाँ जी।
क्या मैं हिंदी में
हाँ,
सवाल
बिल्कुल,
कर सकती हूँ? तो हमारी चेतना का मैं ही है जो दुख और बंधन अनुभव करता है, और क्योंकि वो उसको खत्म करना चाहता है इसलिए वो सवाल करता है। फिर ऐसा क्यों है कि ये दुख और अनुभव की वजह से कुछ लोगों में ज़्यादा वॉइड क्रिएट होता है और फिर वो सवाल करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन कुछ लोगों में ये वॉइड ज़्यादा क्रिएट नहीं होता और वो ये सवाल नहीं करना चाहते हैं? तो ऐसा कैसे है?
अगर इसका उत्तर निकल आए तो सब लोगों को ऐसा कर दिया जाए कि सवाल करने लगे ना। आपने प्रश्न पूछा, सबने नहीं पूछा, इसका क्या जवाब है? जवाब है आपकी मर्जी। ये आखिरी शब्द होता है चॉइस। जिस चेतना की आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, चेतना स्वभाव है चुनना, तो मुक्ति भी चुननी पड़ती है। ठीक वैसे जैसे अभी बहुतों के पास प्रश्न होंगे, बहुत लोग चुन रहे हैं कि पूछेंगे, बहुत लोग चुन रहे हैं कि नहीं पूछेंगे, इसका कोई उत्तर नहीं होता। ये अपने चुनाव की बात है। मेरी मर्जी, मैं चाहे ये करूं, मैं चाहे वो, मेरी मर्जी। तो कोई मुक्ति चाहता है, कोई मुक्ति क्यों नहीं चाहता, ये तो आपकी बात है भाई। आप चाह रहे हो ना, आप बताओ, मुझसे क्यों पूछ रहे हो? कोई कह रहा नहीं मुझे बंधनों में ही रहना है। फिर आचार्य जी मैं बंधनों में क्यों रहना चाहता हूँ? अच्छा कौन रहना चाहता है? मैं। तो तू बता ना, मुझसे क्यों पूछ रहा है? हाँ, तू मुझसे ये पूछ सकता है कि क्या करें, किधर देखें, मार्ग क्या है, तो शायद मैं उसमें कुछ दो चार बातें कहूं। पर तुम मुझसे पूछ रहे हो कि तुम कोई निर्णय क्यों कर रहे हो, तो तुम जानो, और अगर तुम नहीं जानते तो कौन जानेगा? तो एक तरीके से सॉवरेन होती है, स्वयंभू होती है क्या? चेतना, है ना, वो अपना मेरी मर्जी। तो इसीलिए जो लोग फिर छटपटाने लग जाते हैं मुक्ति को, कहते हैं कि अपनी मर्जी से तो शायद हम फंसे ही रहते, और कोई तरीका भी नहीं है कि हम ये पटाहट किसी तरीके से उठाई जा सकती। तो अगर ये उठ रही है तो ग्रेस है, अनुग्रह है, कारण नहीं है, ग्रेस है। कोई कारण होता तो हम एक फॉर्मल प्रोसेस, एक प्रक्रिया बना देते ना, कि सभी लोगों में सेल्फ इंक्वायरी की ललक उठे। अगर हमें कारण पता ही चल जाए कि ऐसे होता है, तो फिर हम एक प्रक्रिया बना देंगे, पर उसका कोई कारण पता नहीं चल सकता। तो इसलिए फिर जिनमें वो जिज्ञासा उठती है, वो बस हाथ जोड़ के कहते हैं कि ये तो अनुकंपा है, अनुग्रह है, ग्रेस है। कारण इसका कुछ नहीं बताया जा सकता, मर्जी है।
और ऐसा भी होता है कि मतलब जब उन लोगों को दुख महसूस होता है तो वो बाबा के पास चले जाते हैं, लेकिन ये जो सेल्फ इंक्वायरी वाली चीज होती है, यहाँ पे वो नहीं आना चाहेंगे।
बाहर कुछ भी हो, कोई भी हो, आप उसके पास जा सकते हो, क्योंकि सारी समस्या भीतर है ना। आपको पता है समस्या भीतर, समस्या हटानी तो है नहीं, तो बाहर कहीं भी चले जाओ, अम्यूजमेंट पार्क में चले जाओ या बाबा के आश्रम में चले जाओ, एक ही बात है। दोनों बाहर की चीजें हैं, दोनों में जाके लगता है कुछ मौज आ गई, दोनों में मनोरंजन हो जाता है। बस एक में जो मनोरंजन होता है उसको आप बोलते हो सामाजिक है, दूसरे में कहते हो नैतिक है, उच्च कोटि का मनोरंजन है। तो बस वही है, मनोरंजन है, बाहर मनोरंजन है, और भीतर जो है समाधान है। भीतर नहीं जाना तो बाहर आत्मज्ञान बिना नर भटके, कोई मथुरा कोई काशी। बाहर कहीं भी भटकते रहो, है वो मथुरा काशी हो, और चाहे फिर आप कैलिफोर्निया चले जाओ, लॉस एंजलिस चले जाओ, मार्स पे चले जाओ, बाहर तो बाहर है। बाहर आप किसी भी दिशा चले जाओ, कहीं भी पहुंच जाओ।
धन्यवाद।
ओके सर, आपने ये जो सिस्टम की बात करी, मतलब जिसमें सभी कुछ आ गया, इन्फॉर्मेशन, पावर, पॉलिटिक्स, कैपिटल, हायरार्की, रिलीजन, सारा कुछ, ये सिस्टम के जब बाहर की बात सोचते हैं तो वो ना ऐसा लगता है, मतलब बिल्कुल एंड ऑफ रियलिटी जैसा लगता है, एकदम डेथ लाइक लगता है कि यार यही जाना है। अभी तक सिस्टम ने ही मुझे सब कुछ बताया, मेरी एम्बिशन, मेरे फियर, सब कुछ सिस्टम से आ रहा है। अगर मैं सिस्टम के बाहर जाऊँ तो लगता है सब कुछ खत्म हो जाएगा। एक दूसरा, जब सिस्टम के बाहर जाता हूँ तो फिर वो जो स्टेक्स जो आप बोल रहे थे, सिस्टम खुद ही आपको स्टेक्स देता है ना, तो आप खुद ही फिर नेगोशिएट करते हो कि कुछ बेटर स्टेक्स निकाल लो क्या, कि जैसे आपने बोला कि खुद ही एक्सप्लोरर बन जाता हूँ ना, तो वो शायद बेटर है सिस्टम से बाहर निकलने से, कि खुद एक्सप्लोरर बन जाओ। ये सर मैं आपको 1-1.5 साल से सुन रहा हूँ आपके साथ, मतलब मैंने संस्था में जब आपको सुन के सिर्फ 2 महीने हुए थे, मेरे को बस एक्सप्लोर करना था कि यार कहाँ से आ गए ये और ये कैसे ऐसा बोल पा रहे। मैंने आपके साथ इंटर्नशिप करी, मैंने संस्था को देखा और मेरे को समझ में आया कि यार ये काम बहुत अलग है, शायद यही सही है। आप जो जो लगता भी है कि ये सही है, ये वो भी आप ही के कारण लगता है, क्योंकि आपने ही इन्फॉर्मेशन दी कि भाई ये है दुनिया, इसीलिए ये काम सही है, इसलिए मैं कर रहा हूँ। आपसे दूर आता हूँ तो लगता है कि यार वो काम ही है करने लायक, आपके करीब आता हूँ तो लगता है कि बेटर स्टेक्स नेगोशिएट कर लूँ क्या, कि कम से कम आराम से रह सकूँ। तो ये चीज़ मैं समझ नहीं पा रहा हूँ उसको सॉल्व कैसे करूँ। और फिर मेरे को पता है कि फिर वो चॉइसलेसनेस के लिए लव और फेथ वाली बात, लेकिन हाउ टू रियली सॉल्व दिस।
कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं हमारे भीतर जो बाहर से जब इशारा मिले ना तभी जगती हैं। हम जीव ही ऐसे हैं। अभी हम इतनी देर से कंडीशनिंग की बात कर रहे थे, जैसे हम कंडीशन हो जाते हैं ना बहुत आसानी से, वैसे ही जो फ्रीडम भी है कंडीशनिंग से, प्रभावों से आज़ादी, उसके लिए भी बाहर कोई दिखे जो आज़ाद हो तो ही भीतर कुछ खटकता है, कुछ ट्रिगर होता है। आप अगर पैदा ही जेल में हुए हो, वहाँ सब वही हैं कैदी लोग, उन्हीं को देखा है, वही भीतर ही वो अपना उत्सव त्यौहार भी मना लेते हैं, भीतर ही अपनी खटपट कर लेते हैं, छोटी मोटी लड़ाइयाँ भी कर लेते हैं, भीतर ही कोई कमा लेता है, कोई थोड़ा अमीर कोई थोड़ा गरीब भी हो जाता है, वही सब कुछ जेल के भीतर चल रहा है। आपको अपने आप तो कभी ललक उठने ही नहीं वाली कि मुझे बाहर जाना है जेल से। आपके सारे स्टेक्स जेल के ही भीतर हो जाएंगे। आप अच्छे कैदी बनिए, आपको पुरस्कार मिलेगा। सब कुछ जेल में हो जाएगा। आपका खाना पीना, शादी ब्याह, बच्चे, जीना मरना सब जेल के अंदर ही चल रहा है। आपको क्यों लगेगा कि जेल से बाहर मुझे जाना भी है? उसके लिए आपको कभी थोड़ा आसमान की ओर देखना पड़ेगा। अच्छा, एक आज़ाद पंछी दिखा, ये दीवारों से बाहर का है क्या? तो जैसे कंडीशनिंग होती है ना अपने आसपास वालों को देख करके, वैसे ही आज़ादी के लिए भी किसी आज़ाद के आसपास जीना पड़ता है। संस्था हमने इसीलिए बनाई थी। उसके बिना होता नहीं है, उसके बिना सिर्फ शब्द रह जाते हैं, कॉन्सेप्ट रह जाते हैं, क्योंकि आप बहुत वल्नरेबल हो, असुरक्षित। आप अभी यहाँ से बाहर निकलोगे, 10 चीज़ें आपके ऊपर छा जाएंगी। बाहर निकलने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है। अभी यहाँ आप मोबाइल खोलोगे, 50 चीज़ें आपके ऊपर आ जाएंगी। हम बहुत हमारे सारे द्वार दरवाजे खुले रहते हैं ना, ये सारी सेंसेस हैं, इनसे बहुत कुछ भीतर जाता रहता है और हमारे पास उसके विरुद्ध कोई सुरक्षा, कोई डिफेंस होती नहीं है। और जो भीतर जाता है वो भीतर सिर्फ जाता नहीं है मेहमान की तरह, वो बस के बैठ जाता है। हमने कहा ना, अहंकार बड़ा सूना सूना अपने आप को मानता है, बहुत अकेलापन उसको है। तो भीतर जो भी कुछ जाता है अहंकार उसको पकड़ लेता है और कहता है यही तो सच है, यही तो ठीक है, तू आ जा, और इसको मैंने बना लिया मेरा सच। अब आप फंस गए। अब आप क्यों आज़ादी की मांग करोगे? जैसे गुलामी बाहर से आती है ना, वैसे ही आज़ादी के लिए भी प्रेरणा तो आरंभिक बाहर से ही आएगी। और जिस आरंभ की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ वो आरंभ बड़ा लंबा खींचता है, क्योंकि बाहर से आज़ादी की प्रेरणा आ रही होगी, भीतर आपने क्या बैठा रखी है? गुलामी। तो वो जो बाहरी प्रेरणा है उसको भी बहुत बहुत लंबे लंबे साल लग जाते हैं आपके भीतर वाले को हराने में। संस्था में थे, एक पोस्टर देखा होगा कि तुम्हें आग से बचाने के लिए मुझे आग से नहीं तुमसे लड़ना पड़ता है। आग लगी हुई है और जलने का खतरा है और मुझे तुम्हें आग से बचाना है, तो मैं आग से नहीं लड़ता, मैं तुमसे लड़ता हूं, क्योंकि तुम उतारू हो जल मरने के लिए। तुम कह रहे हो मुझे आना ही नहीं बाहर। तो भीतर जो बैठा है उसके विरुद्ध फिर बाहर भी किसी को बैठाना पड़ता है जो लगातार आपको टोकता चले, लगातार आपके सामने एक दूसरी हकीकत रखता चले, एन ऑल्टरनेट रियलिटी। नहीं तो जो आपने देखा है, जाना है और जो आपके मन के भीतर है, आपके लिए वही एकमात्र सच्चाई बन जाती है, सोल रियलिटी। और जब वही एकमात्र सच्चाई है तो विद्रोह की क्या बात है, आज़ादी की क्या बात है? यही है कोई ऑल्टरनेटिव ही नहीं है। जब कोई बाहर दूसरा आता है तो विकल्प दिखाते कहता है विकल्प है और मैं रहा, मुझे देखो, अगर मैं ऐसा हो सकता हूं तुम भी हो सकते हो, मुझ में तुम में कोई मूलभूत फर्क तो है नहीं, तो तब होता है। नहीं तो ये यही चलता रहेगा कि आचार्य जी मैं अपने पुराने साधारण सामान्य संसारी जीवन में जब रहता हूं तो फंस जाता हूं, तो मैं पूछूंगा वहां रहते ही क्यों? अगर कह रहे हो खुद ही अपने मुंह से कि फंस जाते हो, तो तुमसे किसने कहा है कि तुम वहीं जाके बसो? तो ये तो अपना फैसला होता है, ये करना पड़ता है, उसके बिना नहीं है। कहिए। ये मुगालता बिल्कुल मत पालिएगा, ये बहुत ज्यादा आध्यात्मिक लोगों को रहता है कि हम अपना पुराना ही माहौल चलाते रहेंगे, जहां रहते हैं वहीं रहते रहेंगे, जिनकी संगति कर रखी है उन्हीं की संगति रखेंगे, जो व्यापार कर रखा है वही व्यापार, जो नौकरी वही नौकरी, जो धारणाएं वही धारणाएं, जिसको आदर्श मानते हैं वही आदर्श, जो टीवी पर देखते हैं वही टीवी, जो एक्टर पसंद है वही पसंद, जो खिलाड़ी पसंद है वही पसंद, सब कुछ हम अपना भीतर बाहर पुराने जैसा रखेंगे, लेकिन हमारी आध्यात्मिक जागृति हो जाएगी। नहीं होने वाली, नहीं होगी, मैं कह रहा हूं नहीं होगी, हो रही होगी तो मैं रोक दूंगा। नहीं हो सकती भाई, होगी तो बहुत नकली चीज हो जाएगी, कोई नहीं हो सकती। जिन्हें भीतरी बदलाव चाहिए उन्हें बाहरी बदलाव के लिए तैयार रहना पड़ेगा, वो कीमत है जो चुकानी पड़ती है। बाहर सब पुराना ही रखोगे, लोग कपड़े बदलने को नहीं तैयार होते, 10 साल पहले ऐसे पहनते, जब कपड़े ऐसे ही थोड़ी तुम चुन लेते हो, ऐसे ही थोड़ी चुन लेते हो। कोई बुर्का पहन रहा है, कोई स्कर्ट पहन रहा है, यूं ही पहन रहा है क्या? उसमें कुछ बात है भाई, फर्क है, कंडीशनिंग का, माहौल का, संस्कार का फर्क है। वो किसी चीज को अभिव्यक्त करते हैं, वो प्रतीक हैं, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हैं, जो तुम्हारे कपड़े पहन रखे हैं। और तुम कह रहे हो मुझे कपड़े तक अपने नहीं बदलने, जिंदगी भर कुर्ता पजामा पहना है या फलानी चीज पहनी है या कुछ है, मैं वही पहनूंगा, तो फिर तो हो चुका बदलाव। मैं नहीं कह रहा कि कुर्ता ही बदल लेने से बदलाव हो जाएगा, मैं कह रहा हूं बदलाव के रास्ते में कुर्ता भी बाधा बन सकता है। अगर तुम अड़ गए कि मैं बाहरी चीजें नहीं ही बदलूंगा, जब भीतरी बदलाव आता है तो बाहरी बदलाव की भी मांग करता है, और जो बाहरी बदलाव से बचेंगे उनका भीतरी बदलाव बाधित हो जाएगा, ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट। बोलिए।
सर इट इज 7:30 नाउ, तो दिस शुड बी द एंड ऑफ द, पर कल भी टॉक है, परसों भी है, तो कल भी टॉक है सर, और परसों भी है ट्रिपल आईटी में, तो वी हैव इनफ टाइम।
अरे इनको तो लेना,
अरे ट्रिपल आईटी में ले लेंगे।
अरे ले लो, जल्दी से हो जाएगा।
थैंक यू। एक्चुअली फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल
इनके ऑडिटोरियम का टाइम हो रहा होगा ना,
so thanks a lot for coming. Actually just in one sentence,
पास करिए।
So is it audible? Yeah. So just one sentence I wanted to say first before asking the question is that you're doing the service to the Vedant what Feynman has done to physics. So it's like your lectures on the Vedantic philosophy. So I have actually one question, but I will subdivide it into 3 parts based on today's sessions. So when you said at the very first, like how do you know that you think you am? So is it similar to what the French philosopher Descartes had said? Like
no. He was giving supremacy to thought. This is not that.
Okay. Second is
he said you are by virtue of your thinking. No.
Oh, okay.
Being comes first. Thinking is a much later thing. Yes. Next.
And you said like if the right desire is there, then there is no need to think about the fulfillment. So
yes.
It is very similar to one Gita shlok.
Yeah, right.
That is correct. Okay. And the last one actually regarding AI. So like everyone is fearing that it will bring about, the super intelligence, it will bring about maybe the destruction. But since this spiritual process, this enlightenment, it is actually nothing but a sequence of chemical reactions in the proper order.
No.
No, because you said like thought.
It's a detailed thing. Come tomorrow to ISC.
Okay. So like, is it possible that sometime in the future there will be a super enlightenment instead of super intelligence?
There's nothing like that. Not even enlightenment is there. You are talking of super enlightenment. Fine. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.